Juan the Don, and this is the Wrestling Matters Podcast, Episode 5. Today we'll be discussing David Taylor versus Jordan Burroughs. We'll also go over the UFC on ABC results. Then we'll cover the fact that we absolutely need to get rid of criteria. And then also to wrap things up, I'm going to go over some NCAA and freestyle wrestling results going on in the world right now. All right, with no further avail, let's get right into it. Okay, night one of David Taylor versus Jordan Burroughs. So for some confusion, I didn't get an episode in between, but Jordan Burroughs versus David Taylor was scheduled. Okay, their match was postponed to Wednesday, but we still had a card that night. So we need to go over the card results from Saturday night and then Wednesday when they actually got together and had Burroughs versus Taylor. So Taylor versus Burroughs, night one, we had Tamyra Mensah stock bumping up and beating Adeline Gray 4-0. Okay, this was a significant result, and it was a significant event, even with Burroughs and Taylor not wrestling that first night, because now you have to start talking about pound-for-pound talks with Tamyra Mensah stock after that significant victory. It's a very big win. She beat a 5-time world champion. She beat the only 5-time world champion in American history, and that's Adeline Gray, and she beat her 4-0. It was very solid. She didn't give up anything. She didn't allow her to get on her legs. She just kept it really solid, and just really those 4 points came off one exchange. She got a takedown, and then she kept the leg, elevated it, and ended up, I believe, turking the leg and getting two. But Tamyra Mensah stock looks amazing. Female wrestler from Texas. Be on the lookout for her to try to bring back an Olympic gold. And apparently she's actually on the descent. She already cut the weight and made 68 kilograms, and I think she's going to go down a weight actually for the Olympics. So Adeline Gray and Tamyra Mensah stock have an opportunity to both be on our USA Olympic team and to both hopefully bring back gold. So good problems to have when you have world champions bumping into each other. Shout out to Flow Wrestling putting the card together. We're here for it, guys. All right, other news in the night one of the card was Jaden Cox over Hayden Zillmer 6-1, or 6-2 actually. Cox didn't give up any takedowns. It's his first match back. He looks good. I believe he was down 1-0 maybe at the break. And then he turned it on in the second period. He actually smiled pretty big between the break, and he was just happy to be back competing. And he's not wrestling with any anxiety or fear. He knows he's the best in the world. So Jaden Cox looks good. It's fun to watch. If you want to watch some solid wrestling, watch some Jaden Cox, guys. Another match on that card from the first night is James Green versus Pat Lugo, and that final score was 3-2. James Green got the win. Pat Lugo looked good. Pat Lugo always looks good, but we got to get him over the hump, and he has to get some wins here. But he's only losing to the best in the world, so that's good news. That's good news for Pat Lugo to know that he's knocking on that door. James Green looked very tired. The descent down to cutting that weight is definitely having an effect on him, and he's had some close matches, but he actually would turn around and wrestle again very shortly at the Henry de Glane France Grand Prix, so we'll get to that like a few minutes down in the show. It won't be a long episode today, but we'll get into James Green. But he won over Pat Lugo 3-2. Now we'll go into night two of Taylor versus Burroughs. Oops, a little spoiler there. Okay, so night two, after the postponement, they actually get together and they wrestled. I'll say I'm sorry, I was a little wrong. I had a bad feeling this match wouldn't actually happen, and it ended up materializing, so we're going to go over it, okay? David Taylor beats Jordan Burroughs 4-4 on criteria. Okay, for my wrestlers and my true wrestling fans, you know what it is. For some of you guys that are new wrestling fans, you're left in utter confusion because you know Jordan Burroughs as the hero and the figure who has tweets with Khabib and McGregor, and people fantasize about him coming to MMA, and he's the Olympic champion, and he's a multiple-time world champion. He's an Olympic gold medalist. Jordan Burroughs is the man. So when you see that he loses 4-4, a lot of my not very serious wrestling fans are confused. And that's what we're going to get into here in a second, is the fact that we should probably get rid of criteria. If we're going to grow the sport and we're going to have cards and super matches and people that don't normally watch wrestling are going to watch, let's get rid of criteria so that the jiu-jitsu guy, the UFC guy, the guy who watches basketball but there's no basketball, he goes to watch Burroughs versus Taylor, and the final score, let the final score have two different numbers from the opponents. Let's figure it out. UWW, come on. Flow Wrestling, come on. Let's figure it out. And then to come to find out that Jordan Burroughs has never lost to an American man in anything other than criteria. All of his losses have been on criteria. No one has ever finished with more points on the scoreboard with Jordan Burroughs since he's been an adult here in America. He's only lost on criteria, so I'm not a big fan of criteria. I think we need to get rid of it. Whoever has the biggest scoring point move wins, or if that's the same, then whoever scored last wins. So David Taylor had a 2-point takedown, and Burroughs had 4 push-out points, and Taylor was awarded the win on criteria. I believe Burroughs was down 4-0, and he scored his 4 points, all on push-outs in the last 50 seconds to a minute of the match. I think he pulled his groin. It looks like he slipped. His corner wanted injury time before the takedown, but on the slip of the mat, David Taylor hits a go behind and he gets the 2, and that's basically it. That's the takedown for the match. So I didn't learn much when they wrestled, though, because it's still so razor thin. I don't know who's better. I don't know if he wrestled 10 times, who wins 6 of them. Those 2 are the best guys in the world, and I hope they both win Olympic gold next year for the USA. So that's that. Taylor and Burroughs was amazing. If you get a chance to get on Flow Wrestling and watch that match, you're going to see some high-level exchanges. Burroughs seemed to not really get his footing fully under him, and he seemed to be a little bit undersized, but it's still fun. We saw Jaden Cox over Nate Jackson. Nate Jackson looked formidable up at 215. He's still wrestling at 86 this year, up through the Olympic trials, but he might move up to 92. He looked good. Jaden Cox won 6-1, and that's about how Jaden Cox's matches are going to go. It's going to be 6-1. He's going to control. He's going to keep you around for the full 6 minutes. He's going to gut wrench you once. He's going to take you down. You're not going to take him down, and that's just solid dominant stuff from Jaden Cox. We saw Joey McKenna with a fiery performance over Seth Gross with a 10-0 tech fall in a minute and a half. Joey McKenna is not playing any games. He is a serious threat to make the team for the Olympics at 65 kilograms. Joey McKenna is in that top tier of guys that has a chance to represent USA at 65 kilograms, which is 143.5 pounds. So Seth Gross bumps up to 65. There's nothing sweet about it when you're wrestling Joey McKenna. He gets tech falled. It happens. Seth Gross is fine. He'll go beat somebody else, But Joey McKenna, guys, don't sleep on Joey McKenna. He's the real deal at 65 kilograms. Okay. Yeah, with all these things put together and all of these matches in mind and all the results from these cards and this data over the last 6 months, it's good to know that the Olympic team looks to be strong despite in-country rivalries. Like, we have a lot of our guys that are going to struggle more. We have returning Olympic champions and returning world medalists. They're going to have tougher days at the Olympic trials than they may even have at the Olympics. So the hardest part, it really is making the team here, especially with the depth that we have here in America, where there's going to be 5 men at some weight that are going to compete from the spot seriously, that any of the 5 could come. And there's some weights where there's 3, some weights where it's 2, and those 2 guys are the best in the world. So we'll see, and the Olympic trials will be up here in a few months. But these are good matches that are getting in. You guys try to catch some of these matches. There's some high-level stuff going on. Both guys are probably favorites to win the Olympics as far as Burroughs and Taylor. I'm not sure for Burroughs. There's always Chamizo and Sidakov, but I think Burroughs should get it done. I think he'll be the favorite as well. I think it was a pretty big upset when he lost. I think David's probably more so the favorite to win gold at 86 kilograms than Jordan Burroughs. And I think that's why it's even crazier that it was a criteria match, because Jordan Burroughs was a world bronze medalist and David Taylor's a world champion at the weight above, and it's tied. So maybe Burroughs could go up and win at 79 or 86 kilograms. I don't know. All interesting stuff. But the biggest takeaway from all that, unfortunately, is that we need to get rid of criteria if we want to truly grow the sport. All of these cards that is going on is beautiful. All of this televised wrestling is beautiful. All these wrestlers getting paid is beautiful. The fact that we have such a competitive route to decide who's on our Olympic team is beautiful for the sport of wrestling. The fact that these guys are transitioning to MMA, all this stuff is great for wrestling. But criteria is going to push fans away. It's as simple as it gets. There's certain people that don't want to see two guys. It just doesn't make sense for two guys to have the same score at the end of a wrestling match. Sorry. Someone had to say it, and you heard it here first from the Wrestling Matters podcast. Okay, lots of people feel that way, but I feel strongly about it, and I think it's time that we need to get an arbitration about doing something about it. Preferably after this Olympic cycle, but it's definitely on our mind. Because this is the thing, and then David Taylor had 2 cautions. What is the point in cautioning someone in freestyle if they're still going to win on criteria? So I don't know what they're really warning him for. Of course, Burroughs, if he had more time, I guess he could have cautioned him out the match, or I don't know. I guess I'm still young in the sport, and we're still learning. The sport's still evolving, and I don't know. It's a great time to be a fan of wrestling. But I think we need to fix the criteria, because for the casual fans, I don't want to offend anyone, but for those people that wrestling isn't their life, but they can watch a 6-minute wrestling match, for those guys, let's let there be let's let there be a distinct winner and no criteria at the end of the match. Let me know what you guys think. Comment. Feel free to email or message me with any topics or suggestions. But that's been the biggest thing on my takeaway, especially after Burroughs versus Taylor, because I didn't learn anything there. 4-4 on criteria when you go up a weight, and then David Taylor's just kind of hanging on, trying to survive. I don't know. I would like to see that match wrestled out again, maybe after the Olympics. I don't know if they'll ever wrestle again. I can't imagine the taste as well in Burroughs' mouth. But when they interviewed Burroughs, Burroughs said he'll be able to sleep at night. The guy that he thinks about is Kyle Dake. So he has to beat Kyle Dake, and that's what his focus is for now. So that was a fun one, but it was 4-4 on criteria, so interesting. All right, next up, guys. The UFC started off the year with free fights to the public on ABC. Really sucks if you missed it, guys. It was right there on ABC. Anyone could have watched it. It was a very entertaining and record-breaking day in the UFC history. Max Holloway, former featherweight champion of the UFC, landed 445 significant strikes, which is a UFC record, and he also was yelling at the commentator Daniel Cormier while slipping punches and looking away, screaming at the top of his lungs that he was the best boxer in mixed martial arts. It's a crazy performance, bloody fight, Calvin Kattar's game. This is one of the best fights I've seen. It's from entertainment value. And then Dana White, you dropped it on ABC. Okay, they really got off with this one, guys. They really are on to something. This was a 5-round fight that went the distance. I would have liked to have seen it stopped in the 4th round, just to be honest. And that's also, it's crazy to say, but it's kind of because it's on ABC. Kattar had no chance of winning the fight after the one of those flurries in the 4th round. And then it was just, everything after that was academic. It was just a beating. But Kattar is so tough and has such a chin, and he's so game, and he has such a heart that he stood in that pocket and traded with him. And somehow his feet were still under him. So Calvin Kattar, his stock didn't necessarily drop, but Max Holloway's stock definitely went up. I don't see anyone in the world calling out Holloway after that. He was screaming that he was the best boxer in MMA and in the organization as far as the UFC. Qatar was 0 for 2 on takedown attempts, and Holloway was 0 for 1. Very high-level fight, blood everywhere. They try to get the fight to the ground a little bit, but to no avail. These guys stood and banged. They threw, it was 600 significant strikes landed total. 450 coming from Max Holloway, 445. So absolutely absurd fight there from the UFC, and that's Max Holloway and Calvin Qatar headlined that. Also on that card in the co-main event, Carlos Condit landed 2 of 4 takedown attempts, and he also landed 75% of his strikes to win a decision over UFC legend Matt Brown. Hype train Joaquin New Mensah Buckley was knocked out in the first round on ABC. Quite embarrassing, but I'm sure the kid will have an opportunity to bounce back after he had a couple of viral moments in 2020. That's the fight game for you. You knock somebody out, somebody knocks you out. That's just the business. The robbery of the card that they got wrong, and there's always one. And I think that might be one of my niches because we're going to go over that every time. There's always one. The robbery of the card was the prelims, and that was Carlos Felipe versus Justin Tafa. Tafa landed 109 strikes at 64%, and Felipe landed 77 strikes at 54%. They give the edge to Felipe. Tafa also had an advantage in significant strikes, and there were no takedowns landed between the two of them. So once again, Tafa landed 109 strikes at 64%, and Felipe landed 77 strikes at 54%, and they give the fight to Felipe. I completely disagree. It was just kind of a disturbing result to see. I knew it was a close fight, but I thought that the strikes were clearly different. From just watching on my screen, I knew that Tafa won from a striking percentage and landed standpoint. He had the edge in significant strikes too. So I don't buy into it. I think it was a split decision. One of the judges had Tafa, 2 had Felipe. Run it back. I don't like it. I don't buy it. Okay, Wednesday, January 20th is Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny on ESPN at noon, 12 p.m. So, hey, anyone with ESPN, anyone with the ESPN Plus app, anyone with the channel ESPN on Hulu or whatever you got, DirecTV, check it out on Wednesday, January 20th. If you aren't at work, if you are, you get a chance, look at your phone, look at those highlights, boom. Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny on ESPN. That'll be an interesting card. We won't get it too much into details, but we'll cover that before we do our UFC 257 preview for this Saturday, which is McGregor versus Poirier. So the UFC is doing big things. They have the UFC on ABC with Holloway this Saturday. Then Wednesday they have Chiesa versus Magny. Now this upcoming Saturday is UFC 257, McGregor versus Poirier. So shout out to the UFC kicking off the year right. Check out that pay-per-view. We'll see if Poirier and McGregor versus 2 is a longer fight and more compelling. But that's all for the UFC today. As we proceed, the Henry de Glane Freestyle Results, also known as the France Grand Prix. United States Women's Wrestling, 50 kilogram gold, Sarah Hildebrandt. 57 kilogram gold, Helen Maroulis. 62 kilogram gold, Kayla Miracle. And 68 kilogram gold, Tamyra Mensah. So yeah, Tamyra Mensah was just up at 76 kilograms and beat the world champ Adeline Gray. And then now she just came down to 68 and won the Grand Prix in France. And then she'll be looking to make that spot for the Olympics. Okay, in men's action at the Henry de Glane, 57 kilograms, gold, Nick Suriano. Of noted, Thomas Gilman, world silver medalist Thomas Gilman was bronze here. And Vito Aruja was 5th place here. At 65 kilograms, Yanni Diakomahalis was gold. He tech-falled the former Olympic champion. And in the finals, he beat America's James Green, who wrestled on the first night of Burroughs versus Taylor, and he had a win over Lugo. He turns around and flies out to France, gets to the finals, but loses to Yanni Diakomahalis in the finals 5-0. Yanni looked amazing. He tech fall Olympic champ. He beat world silver medalist from America 5-0. This kid's 21 years old. So Yanni Diakomahalis looks great. I think he's looking to be pretty solid. And you talk about our team, Olympic team going forward. If Yanni makes a team at 65 kilograms, I think we're really going to win the Olympics, because I see him winning gold as long as he can beat Zane Rediford and Joey McKenna in the Olympic trials, if they even hit. I see him winning gold if he actually gets out there in that bracket, as well with many others on our team. So that's Yanni D at 65 kilograms. 74 kilogram gold, Kyle Dake dominated, pin and tech fall to everyone. 86 kilograms, Zahid Valencia lost 8-7 in the first round, wrestled back to get third. The 97 kilogram bracket, Kyle Snyder took gold, and at 125 kilograms heavyweight, former MC State wrestler Nick Gwiazdowski, two-time world bronze medalist Nick Gwiazdowski, takes bronze at this event. So yeah, that's the Henry DeGlane. These guys are getting ready for the Olympic trials. It's going to be here before you know it. Be involved, know what's going on, guys. It's a lot of interesting stuff. Okay, also some NCAA results. Iowa over Nebraska, 31-6. Here's a few loose, significant match results. Just random weights around NCAAs. We have Brayton Lee over Chase Saldate, 5-4. We have Jaden Ironman over Chad Red, 8-4. We have Malik Heinzelman over Justin Cardani, 9-2. We also have Malik Heinzelman with a major decision over Eric Barnett of Wisconsin. So Heinzelman looks to be different this year. Watch out for the Buckeyes. Sammy Sasso over Mike Carr with a fall in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Sammy Sasso, number one ranked wrestler, doing number one like things. Dylan Ragusin over Brock Hudkins, 5-4. I think Dylan Ragusin is going to be the clear number two this year at 125, and look out for him from Michigan. He looks really good. He's been on my radar for a few months now, and he's a serious guy, so we'll be looking out for him. Also of note, Asa Garcia of IU over Jack Medley, 11-6. I hear the guys at Flow Wrestling really high on Jack Medley, and I see Asa Garcia gets a win over him. I know he was a great wrestler in high school in Indiana, and see how it translates to college. He picks up a good win early on varsity over Jack Medley. All right. Also of note, Penn State versus Rutgers was canceled due to COVID reasons. I think Penn State's dealing with some COVID stuff, so going to be some matches postponed, moved around. There's going to be tri-duels off TV where guys are getting matches in. So I'll try to keep you guys updated. Make sure to follow the Instagram. I'll be trying to put match results up there. May be able to flash the graphics of some of those results on here for you. If not, be willing to check the Instagram, the Wrestling Matters Podcast, at Wrestling Matters Podcast on Instagram. I'll be posting results, and then we'll be trying to getting back to you later this week with an episode talking more wrestling and previewing UFC 257, McGregor versus Poirier. All right, guys, with no further avail, I am your host, Juwan the Don, and this is the Wrestling Matters Podcast.